Well, hello and welcome to the Power of Your Mind podcast. I'm Victoria Gallagher, the Law of Attraction hypnotist. And today you are listening to episode number 316. As a best-selling author of Practical Law of Attraction, hypnotherapist for 25 years, I specialize in empowering business professionals to manifest success using practical strategies, including the law of attraction, hypnosis, affirmations, meditations, all designed to rewire your mindset and drive you toward success. So before we get into today's episode with Sarah Centrella, did I Centrella?
Centrella, yeah, it's okay.
Centrella, where we're going to discuss hustle, believe, and receive. Make sure that you subscribe to the Power of Your Mind podcast on your favorite platform so that you never miss an episode. Each of our episodes is going to help you to transform your life. And if you found value here today, then please support us by leaving a review, sharing the podcast, and also subscribing to my latest Believe Hypnosis app, which features over 1,000 hypnosis sessions, all designed to help you achieve your dreams. And so today, like I said, I have a very special guest with me, Sarah Centrella. Sarah is a master life coach, a best-selling author of her books Hustle, Believe, Receive, Future Boards, and her most recent book, All the Things I Wish I Knew. I love the title of that. It's great. And she is going to be sharing her HBR method for helping you to step into your dreams. And she is also the host of her own amazing show, The Sarah Centrella Show. And in 2008, when her world imploded, she found herself suddenly a single mom with no income, three small children to support. And on that pivotal day, or her rock bottom moment, she took all of herself and not only picked herself up, but she began to climb mountains. She didn't have a comeback moment. She took full control and made her life work, all about helping others to build their dreams under any circumstances. And Sarah's worked with professional athletes in the NBA, the NFL, celebrities, thousands of people around the world, helping them to create and manifest their dream life. Sarah also trains and certifies coaches in the Centrella University. And as a motivational empowerment speaker, Sarah regularly leads workshops for Fortune 500 companies, shares stages with some of the top speakers in the world. And if you want to find Sarah on her website, you can just go to sarahcentrella.com. She also has a blog there, Facebook page, Sarah Centrella. And today we're going to get into this HBR method, how you can overcome the doubts in your mind and find focus and motivation to maximize every aspect of your life. So before I say welcome to the show, Sarah, I just want to invite you guys to check out my YouTube channel at Hip Talk. Watch this on the YouTube channel because you'll actually get to see what a future board looks like. And so, yeah, it's a pretty amazing. I love all the pictures in the background that I'm seeing. So welcome to the show, Sarah. Thank you so much for
Oh,
being
thank
here.
you. Wow, that was an amazing intro. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to jump into this conversation. Nothing I love more than talking law of attraction and manifesting. It's amazing.
Me too. Me too. That's why we invited you on the show because this is my favorite topic. And, people are starting to realize I don't have very many guests on the show these days. So when somebody is here, you got to really listen up because this is somebody that, is like goes beyond the point where I am going, and so I really, really, it's an honor to have you on the show.
Oh, I'm so excited, and I totally believe in hypnosis and law of attraction hypnosis, and so I'm excited to learn, dig into all of your stuff, try your YouTube channel, all the things, and yeah, happy spot
Yeah.
right there.
Very cool. Yeah, I just got my little message from somebody at YouTube that I just crossed 600 videos.
That is amazing. Congratulations. That is awesome. And 300 plus episodes of your podcast. Oh my gosh, I haven't even hit 100 yet on mine. That's amazing.
You will definitely get there. It's just, it's just I didn't even know I was going to hit that. I just was doing something for fun, and
Yeah,
it just sort of led into this. But yeah,
I love that.
it's all about consistency and intention and focus and all those.
Right.
So yeah, we're gonna get into some mindset strategies. So first, before we even get into that, just can you tell us a little bit more? I know I introduced you, but can you tell us just a little bit more about your background and sort of how you got from there to where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my story, the one that you kind of alluded to a little bit ago, is really the catalyst for why I'm here. I was absolutely not on a path even remotely like this beforehand. And just to kind of set a little background for everyone, I was married to my high school sweetheart. We had been together for 16 years, exactly half our life at that point, and married for 8, had 3 babies. I had twins that were a year old and a 5-year old. And one day he came home from work and I found a text message on his phone from his mistress, and he was in the shower and I went in, turned the water off in the shower, and we'll just say that our marriage ended in about 10 minutes. And the crazy thing about it was that it was the complete implosion of my life on every level, because right before that we had filed bankruptcy after having the twins with no insurance. We had lost our house the year before in the housing bubble. I hadn't worked in 2 years because I had twins that were infants, and so this was like the final just boom of the explosion. And so not only did I lose my marriage in this insanely dramatic way, in this like whiplash kind of way, but I had nothing. I hadn't worked. It was a recession. I had 3 babies, which anyone who deals with childcare with infants understands that that's more than a mortgage payment. So it's pretty much your entire salary just to do that. And so I remember, no joke, on the day that he left, we were late on our water bill. Our water bill had a shut off notice, and I'm just sitting there. Honestly, that night, I was laying on the hardwood floor, just crying. And uh, more than anything, even more than the demise of kind of what was happening to me personally, my brain was just trying to fix it. It was like, what am I supposed to do tomorrow? Where am I going to get formula? Where am I going to get diapers? Like, what do I do next? And this was 2008. And so back then there was no social media. You know, part of the shock for me was that he even knew how to text. The fact that I even found it, like, this was the old school where you had to turn numbers into letters. I didn't even know he texted, so like it was such a different world. And to say that I felt alone is the biggest understatement ever, because I actually didn't know anyone who had gone through divorce, which is mind blowing, I know. But again, back then you just knew the people that you knew personally in real life, right? And so I was like, oh my God, I'm the only person in the planet who's ever gone through this. It's humiliating on one level. And also, like, what do I do? I've never seen anyone come back from something like this. And so that night I'm just laying there and trying to solve it, and every time I'm running a scenario through my head of like, okay, we'll get a job. Okay, we'll do this, do that. I'm like, I would flesh it all out. I was like, that's not going to work. That's not going to work, And in this like darkest of all darkest moments, I had this, whatever you want to call it, voice, God, intuition, internal, whatever. But I just kept on saying, I can't do this. I just can't do this. And it just came back as strong and as loud as can be and just said, what if you can? And for me, that was the moment that started to change everything for me, because I needed the tiniest bit of hope more than anything in the world at that moment. I just needed something. And there's something really freeing about the words what if when you use them in a positive context, because no one does that. We only use them in a negative context.
Yeah.
But when you start to say, well, what if I can? Then you're like, all right, well, if I could, what would I do? If I could figure this out, what's the first thing I would do? And so that little thing is what got me up the next day and started to think, okay, well, maybe I could start selling my stuff on Craigslist and get enough money to move and, like actually get next steps going. And I think a lot of people, when they go through life in general, but definitely when you go through something traumatic, your brain almost shuts down and it can't find any solutions, and it can really take you under. And that those words, what if, I teach on them a lot now. I just think they open so many doors for you. They unlock that shutdown that happens. It helps you to start thinking clearly and solving things. And so that was the start of everything for me. And, fast forward a couple months when I finally did get a place and got my first job and started moving forward, I had this moment where I was like, I'd never been alone. I'd been alone since I was 16, sophomore in high school, right? So every decision I had ever made wasn't for me, really. And all of a sudden I was like, well, if I could build a new life, what would it be? And that started everything. That was my first future board.
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, I mean, I am just like implosion is doesn't even merely scratch the surface on what
Yeah.
you went through. Like it doesn't even do what you went through justice. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever, in all the guests that I've interviewed, I don't think I've ever teared up like
Oh,
I was just now. I mean, that was such, first of all, it's a miraculous story. And it's so touching on so many levels. I mean, just and I get it, that at that point in your life when your marriage ended under like horrific
yeah.
circumstances, it does seem that a lot of times when something like that happens, that is like the final shoe to drop. Like
Right,
that's
right.
like you kind of are like in a
You're
downward
forced,
spiral.
yeah, to make a change. You can't just write it out anymore. It's like, okay, we hit the dead end. Like this is the dead end. Something's got to dramatically change. There was no way I could rebuild that old life. And I think I understood that pretty early on too. I was like, well, I can't just substitute. I can't go out and date and try and find a new husband, or I can't get that life back. And so then what? Am I
Exactly.
just going to survive, or am I actually going to figure out what I want and then consider this a blank slate to start figuring that out?
Yeah. Wow, that was just amazing. Well, I'm thankful that you were able to just get that clarity and that what if. That's such a powerful statement that you turned around because so many people they ask the what if. What if I fail? What if I can't?
Yeah, yeah.
And it
Yeah,
is
that's the only way that most people use it, because that's the only way that, I mean, that's the kind of natural flesh out when you think of the words, what if? What if I fail? What if no one comes to the thing I'm doing? What if this isn't successful? Whatever. We'll go through lists and lists and lists of them. And I always think like those are what keep us in our box. Like that's an automatic lockdown. It's like looking all around, lock, 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 right? Just keeping you absolutely stuck. But it's like a hack. All you do is turn those words around and boom, it starts like opening the doors and opening your creative space. And so you just say like, what if I succeed? Well, if I succeeded, what's the best version of success? How would that change my life? What would that look like? Would I really like that? Would I not really like? And it just immediately brings all these other questions to play that become the stepping stones to get what you want. It's kind of a magic trick.
Yeah, no, it's such a powerful question. So you heard that from your higher power, your inner self, God, whatever you want to
Something.
call it,
Yeah.
right? And so once you realized that, there's a part of you that has these answers or has at least these powerful questions. Is this something that you started tapping into more often, or, what did you do with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the first year was total survival, but I think having that initial question, just starting to kind of open up what this new life could look like, helped a ton. And so I became more aware, for sure. I didn't know anything about personal development. Really, Oprah was back then. She had her daily show, right? And so that was my only exposure to anything. And I think some of those lessons were starting to kind of come back now that my mind was in a different space and more receptive to it. And one of them was maybe 2 or 3 years before that, she had done the secret shows, right, on vision boarding, and she'd had Louise Hay on a couple times. And I remember the show where Louise Hay was talking about how you could control your thoughts, and I was like, what is she talking about? Like, is she crazy? Like, I have no control. Like, how do you do that? Like, it just was this concept that was completely insane to me. But those things kind of started coming back a little bit by little bit, and I started getting really curious about them. And I started looking at all the things that before the blow up had not been going well, had been things that I didn't like about my life or didn't like about myself. And I was like, well, I do negatively obsess about those. I have negatively obsessed about them for years. And they're saying if I just did the opposite, I might get a new result. And I was like, I don't think this is going to work. But what the hell? I have nothing to lose. I'm at the bottom. I've lost everything. So I just leaned in completely because I was like, I have nothing to lose. This is free. You know, I didn't have any money. So I was like, this is free. Why not? And it started working. And I never in a million years thought that it would actually start working. But it started working in all these crazy ways, like building my confidence, teaching me to be patient now as a single mom, which was very different than the dynamic that I had before, getting success at work, which was all new to me as well. So I started talking to myself different. And I started, you were talking about affirmations at the top of the show. And that's really what I did. I just started saying, I am successful. I am beautiful. I'm a great mom. Like telling myself all these lies that, they felt like complete lies, but I didn't care. I was like, I got nothing to lose. And so I just totally embraced it. And it was crazy how quickly I started to morph into the things that I was saying, the way that we all do. Everyone listening is doing it right now. You just are either aware of it or you're not.
Everything that you said there is just like gold. I mean, you could just package up just the few last sentences. And if everybody could just listen to exactly what you said over and over again, they would be able to figure out their life as well. Because,
Yeah.
so like at that moment, you just kind of said, look, this is free. What do I have to lose?
Yep.
And then things started happening quickly. Now, so here's what I want to ask you. How much of a battle was it for you to shift your mindset from like where it was? Because
Mhm.
did you have that awareness in that moment? Like, well, if this is true, did I create? Like, did
Oh
you,
yeah. That
right?
was
Like,
that was mind blowing. That was, I think once I started to understand that A plus B equals C, which is really like what I think turns into my actions, turns into my results. And I started looking at the last 5 years of my life and looking at it through the negative lens, because that was what I knew, it was blindingly obvious. I could connect those dots immediately. I was like, oh my God, literally everything I ever thought was my daily reality. And it wasn't just circumstantial. It wasn't just bad luck. It wasn't this, that, or the other thing. It was like a direct line from A to B. And soon as I could see that, to me, that was undeniable proof. I didn't care if, quote unquote, the law of attraction worked. I didn't care what any gurus were saying. I didn't care about nothing. I was like, I have my own proof. And because I can see that clearly, why wouldn't I try and go completely the opposite direction? Like, again, what do I have to lose? So my thought process and what I always tell people is like, if there's a 1% chance I might get a different result, again, why wouldn't I do that? That's crazy to me. Like, and so my brain also needs to simplify things a lot. And I use this tool and I teach it now all the time, and it's pure magic. I call it mental tennis, because you were kind of asking like, what, how did you battle that? How did you kind
yeah.
of change it? And the first answer to that is I wanted change. I 100% saw how that negative had affected me. And I was like, absolutely not. So if you're hemming and hawing, nothing's going to work for you in any category of your life. If you get to a place where you're like, I am done, I will not live that anymore, I am going to figure this out, then you have that kind of motivation, drive, and commitment to it that you're going to get results in anything you do. And so I was like, how do I figure out to make this super, super simple? And
Mhm.
mental tennis is this amazing trick. I have to kind of set it up visually a little bit. And just imagine you're out on a tennis court. Everyone's been there or seen that, right? And they have those kind of automatic ball spitters. I don't know what they're called, but so imagine you're there and, you're getting a ball flying at you once every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
No one in their right mind is going to stand in front of that thing and be like, please knock me out. you know,
Right.
but imagine those as your thoughts all day long. Those negative thoughts are just plastering you. And most of us are standing there absorbing it, being
Mm.
like, okay, I guess I suck. Okay, I guess I'll never be successful. Okay, I hate my body. Like whatever your thing is, right? Because you don't know what else to do. And that's just kind of the natural state. You take it. But what if you just return the serve? You're not going to hit every ball. And the ones you hit, not all of them are going to go where you want them to go, but the effort is there. And so when it comes to that mental tennis, whatever the thought is that's coming at you, I'm never going to be successful. Literally, all you have to do is say, what is the opposite of that sentence?
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
going to be successful.
Yeah.
So it is the easiest, simplest hack trick in the world because you don't have to think of a motto. You don't have to like whatever. This is the in the moment stuff. As
Mhm.
you notice you're thinking something that is dragging you down, just say, what's the opposite? And then you just double down on the opposite. Like for the rest of that becomes kind of your new motto. You're like, nope, I'm successful. I'm going to be successful. I can't wait till the day I'm successful. And you just start changing the story. And what happens over time, it's a long game and a short game. The short game is immediately you'll start to feel better.
Yeah.
Immediately your energy will start to shift. And I'm talking like in the moment. So instead of feeling like dragged down, your energy is going to start to lift. And you'll be like, oh, okay. So everyone wants to feel better, right? Like there's drugs out there for that. There's pharmaceuticals out there for that. Like everyone wants to feel better. Easiest way you can feel better. But the long game is it's going to pull up that old belief, like a root system,
Yeah.
and plant the new one, and then to the point where you will transform into whatever that new sentence is. So it's kind of
Absolutely. And, and you're essentially rewiring your brain every single time you do that because every
yep,
time you decide, and it's a choice here, you guys. I mean, it's an absolute like when were talking about how do you control your thoughts? Because just sidebar, we have about 70,000, 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and they're mostly happening on autopilot.
right,
And unfortunately, most of them are from our negative programming, from the bad
yep,
things, because we're just like, just by nature, the world around us is just constantly showing us the negative things. And,
right. It's matching our belief system. It's matching what we've been saying. Yeah,
exactly. And so, like this mental tennis, I love that analogy and that way that you put it. Like, you're not going to just, you can choose to stand there and just let the
yep,
balls hit you and knock you down, and they're going to.
yeah,
Or,
yeah.
you can choose, like, and you're not going to hit all of them. I mean, like,
Exactly. There's going to be days where you're like, nope, I'm going to take it. I'm going to grab a pint of ice cream. I'm just going to sit here and get pelted. We all have those days. But to know you have a choice, I think is so key because before I heard her say that, and I didn't even understand, it took me probably 2 years of trying to figure it out before I even understand what she was talking about. I didn't know I had a choice. I didn't know that the ones that I was consciously thinking, like the arguments that were happening in my head,
yeah,
those I could turn around. Those I could argue with in a positive way. I could say, no, I am going to be successful, or no, I am this, or whatever. That having that freedom of choice was life changing. And then again, like the fact that it worked was just shocking to me. I was like, why isn't everyone doing this? This is crazy.
exactly. How long, like, did it take for you to to have that awareness and to start doing that? How long did it take you before you really started to see some of the results?
So I coach it now, and I've been coaching it people around the world for 15 years or so. So luckily I have a lot more evidence than just me. And typically there's a step in my program called Think It, and that is one of the tools that we use and we practice. We use mental tennis, and we do them with I am statements and some other things. So if, and this is the big if you actually practice it,
Yeah.
in other words, throughout the day, when
Mhm.
you notice what you're thinking, and you're like, I don't think I want that, and I start changing it. And so that is the key. You can hear about this, you can do it once or twice, you're not going to get anything. You have to practice awareness. What am I thinking about right now? As I'm doing the dishes, as I'm walking the dog, as I'm taking a shower, because you're totally thinking the whole time. Your brain's going the whole time. So you have to start being aware, stepping into that, and then, guiding it and changing it. You're going to start to see results again in your energy and how you're feeling almost immediately. And that will stay as long as you do it. So that feeling, like, that is truly how you change momentum. It's how you get out of a funk. It's how you change your energy. But then a longer term results where you're starting to see that come back to you,
Yeah.
like, for instance, I remember when I started all of this, and I was a horrible self-talker about my body, my whole life, just, dear God, terrible, terrible. It was all day, every day. And so I started saying, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful. And I couldn't say that to myself in the mirror for probably the first 3 months. Like, that just, I would start crying. I just couldn't even do it. Right. There was so much baggage there. And then I remember I started doing it in the mirror, started doing it, every single day as I brushed my teeth, morning and night. Then I started looking at myself when I would say it, making that eye contact so I could really hear it. And then I remember one day I was walking by a window or something, headed to a meeting, and I caught a glimpse of myself, and I'm like, damn, girl, you're beautiful. And it was just the moment where the realization had, or the transformation had happened, like, where my belief about myself wasn't about how I looked that day. I felt that I was embodying it, and I never, ever had that my whole life. So it takes probably 30 days of daily practice to start seeing those actually start to come back to you. The longer you do it, the more you will permanently change it forever. Then you start to just become the thing. It starts to become your DNA, but you have to be consistent for sure.
Because consistency is like the key. I just feel like consistency is the key to like everything.
Everything.
And the other thing too, this has kind of been my realization lately is discipline. You have to like be disciplined enough to like, I mean, if you want the results, those thoughts are going to keep coming. I mean, it's not,
Right.
I mean, let me just ask you, because you've been doing this
Yeah.
and helping other people, for look, probably like
Yeah.
almost
Over a decade. Yeah.
decades. Yeah. Okay. So, do you still have negative thoughts coming at you?
It's interesting. Depending on how deeply embedded they are.
Yeah.
So something like abundance or lack mindset that goes all the way back to childhood, that goes to how your parents, that is really deeply ingrained.
Yeah.
I think definitely pops up in, the first moment that something kind of triggers it. But again, you immediately have that choice, and you see that choice, and you're like, nope, that's not true. Like, I've done my work, I'm moving forward. And so you can change the conversation really quickly
Yeah.
so that you're not manifesting again in that cycle and turning it all back around. But there are many other things where, no, I mean, the thought might come in, but you're like, that's silly. That's ridiculous. Like, it bounces off you the way a thought would, that's the first time it comes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like the first time you have a new thought, you're like, what's that? It doesn't stick, right? Unless it kind of has some energy behind it or has some emotional pull behind it. So what you're doing by practicing it over and over and over again on that consistent basis is you are removing yourself from the emotional connection of that old belief. And you're doing it so consistently that you're starting to build an emotional connection to the new one. You're starting to say, I am good at this. Look at that. I'm getting better every day. And then what happens? You start to see the results of that, right? You'll see an example of like, wow, I am better at that than I was yesterday. So now I have proof. So genuine confidence comes from proof over time and comes from what we tell ourselves. So if you think of an athlete, right, who seems very confident to you, they're doing those two things over and over and over again. They're saying, I'm the greatest, I'm the best, no one can beat me. And then they're going out, and every time that is proven to them because they win or because whatever, they're like, see, told you, I'm the best. And even on the days when they don't win, they're like, that's okay, I'm still the best. I'm just going to go out and fix whatever it was that made me lose that time. So I'll be that much better, right? And it's that simple, but most of us don't understand we could apply that too to our
Absolutely.
life.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so so you've talked about a couple of tools. You've talked about the tennis,
Mm-hmm.
the thinking tennis. What did you
Yeah,
call it?
mental tennis,
Mental
yeah.
tennis. And so now obviously you've got this big, beautiful board behind you with all these images. Can you this must be part of what you help people with. So can you
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about that?
absolutely. So that very first future board that I made a couple months after, my life exploded, I went about it very differently. I had never kind of made one with magazines or any of that stuff before. And so I remember thinking like, well, I was building my new life in my head, right? Because it was a blank slate. I didn't know what I wanted. So I just started fantasizing. And those fantasies made me feel better in a really dark time in my life. So they became like this little mental escape that I was kind of creating these fun little movies. Like, wouldn't it be great to go on vacation? And here I was struggling to put food on the table. But I was like, but vacation someday is going to be really nice. And here's where I go. And here's what we would do. And so I just built it all out. And then I remember one day I was like, well, I kind of want to look at those. I was at work in this little tiny cubicle. I was on the phone all day doing inside sales, hearing no all the time. And so one day I just Googled images, all the things that I've been thinking about, and plastered my little cube with them, just to make me feel better and to help the day go by faster and because it was pretty. And again, no expectation of anything, but I did something super magical then that I had no idea I was doing. I can first identified what I wanted before I ever looked at a picture. I built the movie in my head, and that is what creates desire or want or emotion, which is super important when it comes to manifesting. And then I did not go to a magazine and pick out a random picture of a beach. I went on Google and said, what does the beach in Hawaii, the black beach, look like when there's a mom and two kids playing?
Oh, yeah.
And so then I would look at the picture of an actual mom
Hmm.
building sandcastles with her kid on the beach I wanted to build sandcastles with my kids on. And
Yeah.
so 2.5 years later I took my son to Hawaii. We built sandcastles on the black beach. And I was like, okay, how did I do that? And how do I do it for the rest of my life?
That is amazing. And so the key here is being very specific and choosing things that that you really resonate with, like you said. I mean,
Yes.
it's not just some beach. It's like, where do I really want to go? Who am I in this scene
And
and
why
how
do I want it? I think that why is super important. For me, that represented so much more than a day at a beach, right? That represented, oh my God, I got out of this black hole. I'm creating a new life. I'm creating memories. I'm actually doing this. So there was so much tied into a dream like that. That was my why
Mhm.
that, helped me be motivated at work. So I could sell and get that commission, and all of those things were so tied together because I had a why that really mattered to me. I really wanted that. I wanted my kids to have a beautiful childhood despite all the stuff that they had been through. I was absolutely determined. And so, yeah, I think the first step is really knowing what you want. What does your dream life look like in its best possible form? Think about all the different areas and categories of your life. And then Pinterest is the place I always teach all my clients to go get their pictures, because it's the largest photography library on the internet. And a lot of people don't use it that way or don't know, but it's magical. So you can go in, it's a search engine. So you go in there and you say, mom, 3 kids, beach, Hawaii, photography, and boom, your dream comes to life for the first time outside your mind, right in front of you. And you get to scroll through and say, that one is me. And
Mm.
it's all those little connections that make the method I teach so unlike anything you've ever done. It's not a vision board. It's not a rando collage. It is very strategic future planning. And so that's why I call it a future board. I was like, this isn't a dream. This isn't a fantasy. This isn't a vision. This is my future. And someday this will be like my photo collage of my real life moments. And so I've been keeping the side by sides for 15 years of, what it looked like when I manifested it versus reality.
That is amazing. I love Pinterest too for that specific reason. When we were, and even just like when we were decorating our house, and we were trying to figure out like, well, what is the pool going to look like in the backyard? And,
Yep.
all of that stuff, it's like, okay, here, here's exactly, and you can even just go to Pinterest and look at your little board that you have put together for yourself, your little
Yep.
future board. And yeah, it's a wonderful tool for
And you'll
that.
manifest just from that too. That's a crazy thing. For a long time, I was like, it has to be the physical board. And I still make every client make a physical board because there's a whole lot of reasons why you have to do that. But I've manifested directly off Pinterest for years and years and years. So what starts to happen, you probably know way more about this than I do about the subconscious, right? So when you're scrolling through and your subconscious is kind of like taking little pictures and storing it away. It was like, ooh, that made you happy. Ooh, that spiked your butterflies. Ooh, that, got you creative. And Bilby, I remember I came back from a trip, my first trip to Italy, that was this huge manifestation, lifelong dream. And a year later, I was scrolling through just old pictures on Pinterest that I was kind of cleaning it out. And I must have run into 10 different actual side by side moments that I have pictures of that were exact to what was on Pinterest. And those were not around me. They were just pinned one day and forgotten. But that subconscious, it makes your decisions, right? It's like, ooh, that bridge looks nice. Let's stop and take a picture of that bridge. Why does it recognize it? Because it was implanted, 5 years ago or whatever the case is. So
Spot on. That is, yeah, that is so cool. That is great. So, I don't want to gloss over something you said. You mentioned that, you have your clients, actually make the physical board, and you said that there are reasons for that. What would you say are some of those reasons?
there's a couple. I think number one, it's action,
Yeah.
right? It's actual physical action. There's so many things that we procrastinate on. We're like, yeah, I'll get to it. Yeah, it's this, that. But if I've committed to the work that I've done to this point, identifying what I wanted, thinking about it, changing my thoughts about it, doing all this work, pinning it, whatever. And I'm like, I'm too lazy to kind of finish it, or I'm too busy, or I'm too this, that, or the other. Personally, I feel like that's a little message to the universe. Like, you know what? It would be nice, but I'm not that serious about it. And so taking it over the edge, it's a little bit of an investment. You got to print out all the pictures. It's time. It probably will take the average person 2 hours to put a board together. But there's something magical in those 2 hours. Like grab yourself a glass of wine, put the music on, light the candles, make it a thing. And it is this crazy thing that for the first time, because every pin is a different picture, right? So it's like, yeah, I want that. Yeah, I want that. This is a puzzle of your future.
Mm.
And you putting that puzzle together and seeing every want and desire when it comes to relationships, when it comes to business, when it comes to your career, when it comes to what wealth and abundance mean to you, when it comes to the once in a lifetime experiences you want, you're putting that together. And there's just something so incredible about seeing it for the very first time and going, oh my God, this is everything that I want. This is everything that I'm working for. I resonate with it fully. It's completely in line with who I am. And I am so excited to live these moments whenever they come. And
Yeah.
it helps you let go of the when and the how, which are the two things you don't control. There's just this, it's hard to explain because when you first start, you're like, I'll never let go of the when and the how. But if you follow the method and do it that way, You 100% do. By the time you get to the board, you're like, I don't care when this happens. I'm going to live in that moment in all its glory. And it's coming, and it'll come at the perfect time. So,
Absolutely. That's the thing. You really have to trust that it does come at the perfect time. We only know a fraction of like really what's going on. And, the universe is pretty intelligent, pretty smart, and everything is orchestrated in kind of a masterful way. But we have
yep.
to be willing to get out of the way and receive. And, I always feel like, any of the ideas that we have, the wants for our lives, those are glimpses into, a future that we're meant to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think when you know what you want, why you want it, and it's true to you, it's not, pulling someone else's dream, or you're really taking the time to get to know yourself, you'll feel it, right? You will feel that you are in that space. It almost feels pure. So I think a lot of people initially will have a lot of blocks around, am I worthy for this? Or is it selfish to want more when I already, have a nice life, or any of that stuff. And when you go about it, this process, you understand, hey, I don't want to settle, and I don't have to settle, and I shouldn't settle. That we weren't created on this universe to sit here and settle. Like, I want to grow. I want to evolve into the next version of myself. I want my life to mirror that, and not only is there nothing wrong with that, but this is why that matters to me. And one of the tips that I always teach people, especially when it comes to the board, is focus on experiences and not material things.
Mm, mhm,
So
mhm.
experiences over things. And when you see my board behind you, you'll see that pretty much every picture has a person in it.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because, if let's take a random example. This is kind of a good way for people to understand. Let's say I want to go to Paris. And my whole life I want to go to Paris. In my brain, it just sees a sentence. I want to go to Paris.
Mhm.
Right. And then I just
Mhm.
leave it and I go about my life and whatever. But if I sit down with that person and I say, walk me through your perfect day in Paris. Who's with you? What are you wearing? Why is Paris so magical? Why do you feel like you're alive? Talk to me about every little thing. Then now we can go on Pinterest and we can see a woman getting proposed to under the Eiffel Tower, and she's crying because whatever,
Yeah.
this person just told me. I want those moments. I want the actual things. And so they become almost like side by side pictures you can take of reality versus what you want to manifest. And that connects you with the want or the desire, which again
Absolutely.
is that emotional component is so important.
That makes so much sense. It really does because we usually don't do life completely, in solitary. Some
Right.
people might, but for the most part, even if we are like solitary, there's still other people in our life. People
Absolutely.
you know, a are what make the world go round. With your business, whether, you're buying something the
Yeah.
car or the watch that you have, whatever it is. There's always a person that's involved in all of these manifestation processes.
Or there's a moment that you're thinking of, whether it's conscious or not, that is why you want to do that.
Mhm.
Right. It's a memory that you want to capture, that you want to keep. And I always say, do this very thoughtfully. In other words, if you're a single woman, let's say, and you want to manifest love, there's certainly better not be pictures of just a woman on your board because the universe manifests pretty exact, and it will manifest just you doing all these things alone for the rest of your life. Like, so think about it. And it's the the faith it takes to say, no, maybe I want a partner and I want a family. That hasn't worked for me up to this point. I don't see how that's going to work, blah, blah, blah. So we have all those blocks, right? But I'm going to put that on the board anyway, because that is the desire of our heart. And so when you're doing this, you go through so many levels of self-discovery and growth, because you probably didn't even realize you were blocking yourself this whole time by not really leaning into that dream, because you're like, maybe it's past, or maybe it's this or that. But this was forcing you, nope, that is what I want. I can be okay with saying that's what I want, and I'm going to put it out there. And that's how you manifest it, like
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Absolutely. Oh, I love this. There's so many wonderful, questions I could ask you to continue, but I just want to kind of get, to the how do people like connect with you, and just what's next, what's the next step for somebody who's maybe, like maybe they've just been stuck for a while. They're listening to the show obviously because they want more. Maybe they haven't completely figured it out yet the way that you have. So what
Yeah.
would be like the next step that somebody could take to say, I'm stuck, I want to get unstuck, I want to get to the next level, and so much more for me. What am I doing wrong? Why can't I,
Yeah.
you know?
Absolutely. So obviously I teach everything that we talked about today. Everything we talked about falls into the method that you were talking about earlier. I now call it the Centrella method. It's expanded a little bit since the first book. But I do that in small group, very intimate small groups, 6 to 8 people. That's 12 weeks long. I also have an online course. So if you're a self-learner and you want to take your time and learn it yourself, you can do that. You can also grab the books. They're behind me here. Future Boards covers kind of a lot of that future board stuff that we talked about today. And Hustle, Believe, Receive goes into some of the other steps that we talked about. And you can find everything at sarahcentrella.com or follow me on Instagram at Sarah Centrella.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us today, and your inspiring story, and just letting us know a little bit more about some of the manifestation puzzle, the missing pieces that some people might still have. And yeah, it's just been a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome. Loved every minute of it. Thank you very much.
Me too. Thank you so much.